So, on this show today, we promise to have a difficult chat. And I say difficult because it is a difficult topic. It is not an easy topic. It is about athlete activism, it is about politics and sports. And I'll give you a couple of pointers why we have picked this up. It was a very fine, it was a very glorious moment at the Bengaluru Stadium when India won the SAF championship, beating Kuwait in penalties. And then suddenly something happened. What was that thing? So our Indian footballer Jeaksonsingh, who is from Manipur, incidentally, there were three football players from Manipur in that team. And what he did was he draped himself in a Kangli Park flag. After India won, he celebrated draping that flag. When the medal ceremony happened, he was still draped in that flag. After that, the pictures went viral, and there were a lot of comments about him, about Jeaksonsingh. And why were the comments about him? Some of them were in the nature of trolling him. Many felt that this was not the right thing to have done. So that flag basically was a symbol, or rather is a symbol of the Meitei people of Manipur, and it was used by Jeekson Singh possibly to make a political comment, and some said that it was also in support of Meitei separatism. Now, to be fair to Jeekson Singh, he said that these accusations were false and that he is always in favor of peace in Manipur. And as you all know, there has been major ethnic strife, violence in Manipur. A lot of people have lost their lives, and that violence is still continuing. So, our focus today would be with a couple of very good guests is to discuss why this is happening and what can be done to stop it. So let me introduce my guest first, Kushala Bhattacharya, Professor and Dean of the Jindal School of Journalism and Communications. Kushala and I go back a very long way. We are not only old friends, but I respect him a lot for all that he has done, not only in the field of journalism, but as an author. And he has very strong views, very strong. Warm welcome to you on the show, Kish. How are you?
Thanks, Arup. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Then NNI sports editor Sandeep Mishra, who brings in enormous experience about how activism has been in sport and the way it has been used constantly. So one can't wish it away, no matter what, no matter how hard one tries to. And then we have a young correspondent Subhashish Sarkar, who was right through the Bengaluru battle, and he was there for every match. He was there in the finals when India beat Kuwait, and he is an eyewitness to what happened when Jeekson Singh wore that flag. So we will come to him also for his eyewitness account. Let me begin this show with you, Kishale, and get a reaction from you that when Manipur is going through so much strife, when there is a massive problem between the two ethnic communities, which is the majority Meiteis and the Kukis, and the violence that has unfolded, how was your reaction when you got to know that Jeekson Singh draped that flag around him? Do you think it was a deliberate message?
Arup, I think it was deliberate, of course, but I also think it's quite unprecedented. And when I'm saying this, I could be fact checked, but to my memory doesn't serve me any instance where Manipuri sports people have basically made this kind of a political statement. Given that Manipur is a sports powerhouse in India and for a very long time, they excel in almost all forms of sports from archery to football, hockey, and boxing. One of the country's most famous boxer is from Manipur, and she tweeted on the 3rd of May that my state is burning. So she actually did not make a political statement, even though she is embroiled in another different controversy closer to the capital or in the capital regarding wrestling. But when it came to the Manipur situation and her brother's only brother's house was allegedly attacked by the mob early when the trouble started. She refrained from actually taking any sides, but she says that my state is burning, and she had put some pictures out as far as I remember. Uh, Going ahead, for these footballers to be able to uh, don the so-called Meitei flag, which is also new to people out there. is quite significant. Now, I mean, I don't know, but my sense is that the situation out there today is so volatile that if you can't be a fence sitter. You are either on this side or that side, and if you are on this side, if you are a Meitei, there will be tremendous pressure on you to actually espouse the Meitei cause, and whether the footballer deliberately or whether he wanted personally to espouse the cause or not, I'm not very sure. But even if he did not, he would be under pressure to say that here's the moment, don the flag, make a point to the world. So this is what could be just a benefit of doubt to him. But otherwise, the young people of Manipur have decided to take sides. Very unfortunate. They are either donning the flag or wearing a camouflage, and that is visible on both sides of the divide.
Right. Kishala, you're making a very important point, and you are saying that the time has come, and possibly a lot of people within Manipur, particularly the youth, have decided not to be fence sitters. But then that means that since Jeaksonsingh is a Meitei, so he draped that Meitei flag. So if it was a cookie, they would have sent out another signal, and it just gets worse and worse. Sandeep, many of the trolls are saying that Jackson Singh's actions have caused more harm than good. It has sent a very a divisive message in Manipur. The Football Federation has washed its hands of the matter by saying that, well, since Jackson Singh has clarified, then there is nothing left for us to do. But the main point is, which I feel, is that this was a very well thought out action. This is not something that you dive into your closet and pull out a Meitei flag, drape yourself in it, and then walk all over the stadium. I'm not saying again that Jeakson Singh is being divisive. I don't buy that, but he is being supportive of his own community. How do you interpret that?
No, I guess when you say that, that he exactly knew what he was doing. It's not that he didn't. At the same time, I think when you look at sport largely, when you look at what happened in the SAF, when you look at that final, when you see India winning, I don't know if he would have, worn that flag or draped it around himself if India would have won the final. I don't know about that, but it's a thought that actually came to me. Would he have done that if India had won? But somewhere along the line, I think a lack of political thought is considered a virtue in India. I think for Jeakson, this is something that he had planned all along, and the calmness that surrounded him while he was doing it is remarkable. I think you probably go back to the 60s and the 70s and 80s, and you see American athletes doing the same. Because America was probably the hotbed from where sports activism actually flowed out. And to see him do that, I think when you say that, the Federation is pretty quiet about it, I don't think so. I think they probably will be sitting with him. They probably will be speaking to him and trying to understand what really happened. But for me, it was an emotional moment. He's feeling powerful. He's feeling India as one. The underlying fact is that we have to also recognize the fact that India has won, and he used that occasion. I mean, he's not going to get an occasion. He is not a cricketer. You know, Kishila speaks about Manipur being a power center. Yes, it is. I have spoken to Chinglin Sana, I have spoken to Kotaji. They don't want to come on the record for this. So for one person, one footballer to come on record, rape himself, I think also requires somebody to be a little courageous to be able to do that, because he understands the fallout of what's going to happen. He understands that it's very easy for him to be called to football house at the Football Federation and be told that, probably this is your last match you're playing. He knew all of that. But at the same time, I think this sends across a message. This also sends across a message that there is really no point in being silent all the times. At least somebody needs to speak out about something, and he felt strongly and he did it. So I honestly don't feel that he crossed a line anywhere.
Okay, you're taking a controversial line yourself by saying that you don't think he crossed the line. I'll come back to you and Kishal. But first, let me go over to Subhashish. सुभाषिश, दर्शकों को हमारे ये समझाइए कि जब आप वहाँ उस स्टेडियम में थे और जिस वक्त जीक्सन सिंह ने वो फ्लैग अपने शोल्डर्स पे डाला और वो वहाँ पे घूम घूम के उन्होंने सबकी वाहवाही लूटी, उनको मेडल दिया गया, आपने क्या दिखा और एक चश्मदीद होने के नाते आप क्या मैसेज देंगे दर्शकों को, जो आपने देखा, जो आपने इंटरप्रेट किया, या आपके दिमाग में बात आई होगी? Subhashish? Subhashish, can you hear me? There seems to be a bit of a problem. Kishore, I'll come to you on the point that Sandeep made, which is that he didn't feel that Jeekson
Hello,
Singh crossed.
hello,
Yeah. आप सुन पा रहे हो?
hello.
सुभाशीष, आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हो? Okay. So, Kishore, so on that point, what is your view? Because do you think that Jeekson Singh crossed the line? Of course, it was a well thought out message that he gave, but the controversy that has been triggered, obviously, a large section of society believes that he crossed the line. It was a divisive message, and although he has clarified, they feel the Football Federation has not done enough. Should he be penalized? All those questions are being raised. Your reaction?
Well, to the extent that that a sports person also has a right to be political is something that I would agree with Sandeep. That that journalist has the right to be political, even though that you're expected to be neutral. Everyone else on the street can be political, but if you're representing your country, then you are supposed to be apolitical. I don't subscribe to that, but in this case, I don't think so. It was a political message because what's happening in Manipur is actually not politics. What's happening in Manipur is actually murder. Uh, you know, a mother and child burnt alive on an ambulance. A person whose head has been chopped off. I mean, things that were. I mean, Manipur is not no stranger to violence. Just like Manipur is no stranger to winning medals in sports. Violence in Manipur has been going on for the last 4 decades. But what's going on right now is something that most people who are witnessing the violence out there say they have never witnessed such levels of violence, such levels of enmity between two communities. And there is a large population, I will believe, knowing Manipur very well, who are trying to talk peace, trying to say that this is insane. I mean, I see people in social media saying that that what's happened to us, we are just people are just running amok. Now, in this kind of a volatile situation, for to be able to use a symbol which is going to only spark or fuel the violence is something I think is crossing the line. So it's about, but it's to the jury to figure out what is right and what is wrong. But on one hand, just to repeat myself, that yes, he has a right to be political, but then if I were to actually go out on the road and take up the cause or espouse the cause of a armed militia, a guerrilla, then am I not going to be held accountable? And if that is true, then well, then he should be held accountable.
Right. Sandeep, there's an important point that Kishalai made, that if journalists can be political, and we are seeing that happening in TV studios all the time by our very esteemed anchors, so why not sports persons? Now, when we say why not, then all the lines are getting blurred, and if this is just the beginning, then it might get even more and more intense, and a lot of uh, misinterpretation can happen. I also want to understand from you, with your experience, that what do the sports bodies do then? I mean, do they send out a diktat? Do they counsel the players? Are there rules? Because suddenly, if Virat Kohli also tries to send a very strong ethnic message in a different situation, then he's a massive influencer. It would impact a lot of people. Then there's a danger of everyone going berserk.
Well, the only difference I think out here is that the cricketers won't do it, you know. And just imagine, just for a second, I mean, both of you, just for a second, imagine if, there was a Manipuri cricketer playing for India, Test match, ODI, T20, IPL, whatever, and he does the same thing. Just look at the outrage it would have caused. You use a platform. But yes, a cricketer won't do it. A cricketer probably will, as we have so often spoken about this, a cricketer will probably just retweet a national government directive, demonetization or something, and call it brilliant and still be applauded for it. He'll probably still be getting his Arjuna awards and so many other awards. I wish they don't stop Jeakson's future awards, that he's supposed to be getting for being such a fabulous player. But coming down to the point that you are saying, yes, every federation has a set of rules. And I think that's where this federation, the football federation, is going to sit down with this guy and they're going to read out a riot act that, okay, this is what you've done. Either we not never see this happening again. Because whether you take the BCCI, you take the hockey federation, you take the athletics federation, everybody has a set of rules. And probably in the last 30, 40, 50 years, I have never seen anybody do something like this. No one. For any cause, irrespective of whether it was political or not, no athlete has ever come forward to do something like this. You see it happening often in so many other countries, but in India, this probably is a first mover kind of a thing. So I think federations are going to wake up. They're probably going to make it tougher now, understanding that something like this has happened. I don't know what the central government or what the government is going to be doing on this. Of course, they're going to be calling up the federation. They're going to be understanding why it happened. If I am the federation, I would definitely sit down with the footballer. I would definitely try and understand the person, because at the end of the day, this is an emotional issue. So let's completely right in saying that, yes, you draw a line in certain aspects, you don't draw a line in certain aspects. And I think that is what the understanding has to come from an athlete, from a footballer, being a footballer himself. I think this is what the federation needs to do. They really need to sit down and speak to the guy and try and understand why he even did this. We all know why he did this, but to try and understand and bring him over and understand that, yes, you have done it. Just don't do it again. That's all.
Okay, let me try and go back to Subhashish, and I hope he can listen in this time. Subhashish, जो आपने वहां देखा, हमारे दर्शकों को ये बताइए कि आप उस टूर्नामेंट में शुरू से अंत तक थे। फाइनल में जब ये घटना घटी तो आपने क्या देखा, और आपकी अपनी एनालिसिस क्या है जीक्सन सिंह के मामले में? Okay, we seem to have a tricky line there, and he just can't hear me. Sandeep, I'll come back to you. And there are a couple of instances in recent sporting events. For example, Djokovic openly talking about the problem in Serbia. He's even signing the camera with his felt pen, and he wrote on that. Then we have Hardik Pandya during an IPL match. He took a knee to support Kyron Pollard on the Black Lives Matter incident. Then we had Quentin de Kock, the South Africa wicketkeeper, who did not take a knee, and there was a lot of problem during that series, I remember. Then we have, obviously, the Black Lives Matter campaign. Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback from San Francisco, who did not stand up for the national anthem. He got his career ruined, but he maintained a stance. And so there are several such other instances. Now, when we are talking about those instances, and let's take Hardik Pandya's case. Now, he's now the T20 captain. And you made a point earlier that cricketers are the last people who will open their mouth for the loss of money, opportunities, etc., etc. But Hardik Pandya did take a knee, while he may not open his mouth on something more serious and more local.
I don't remember any cricketer ever doing anything in response to anything happening in our own country. Never. So for me, Hardik Pandya can keep taking a knee. It really doesn't matter to me on those accounts. I'm being very honest and brutally frank on that. There are hundreds of things that happen in this country. I don't see any of them ever doing anything. So cricket has its own share, and let's understand there is a commerce angle also to everything. When you spoke about Colin Kaepernick, I mean, he lost millions of dollars. But at the same time, he came out in the open, and he decided that this is what really, I understand this point, and I'm going to make it, across to the world. Whoever wants to listen to it, it's fine. Nike went away, and all of those guys, even though later on they came back and did an advert for him. But cricket is the last. At least when I speak about Indian cricket, I don't think you will really or probably rarely see anybody, you know, doing anything. I mean, you go back to Chris Douglas Roberts. I mean, just look at the tweet that had happened when Osama was assassinated. Look at the kind of shit this basketball player took in the US. In the end, he kept saying that all I wanted to say was that so many lives have been lost. So many lives have been lost. To what extent? To kill one guy. I mean,
Right.
that's what he kept saying. And I think somewhere along the line, Jeakson's probably view is the same. You know, can we have peace? In what he's exactly tweeted, can we have peace out there? And I think the Football Federation, you're talking about federations, I think the Football Federation should in fact come out and say something on this. I think that's the best thing. They should come out and say that, okay, what happened there has happened. But you know, we support our team, we support our player, and we ensure that most of this political comments should not be happening on a field, which is so difficult because activism and sport, you know, they go hand in hand across the world. They go hand in hand. We can't deny that, and we can't run away from that fact. So instead of, you know, just going against a particular player, which happens every time, it happens again. It happens all over the place. Look at the amount of flag Djokovic takes for whatever he does. At the end of the day, 24 Grand Slams, the greatest player in the world. Of course, arguably, you will have your Roger Federer fans also out there, but that's what sports gives us. I mean, it gives us a platform to be able to understand, see, would we have gone through so much of Manipur? People analyzing it now, I think probably, I think what Jackson has done has probably opened it up a little more for people to understand what is required out there on that front. I think we need to be thankful for that.
Kishala, you would have closely looked at the way some of our wrestlers started their campaign, and it went on for quite some time at Jantar Mantar against a person who was blamed for sexual harassment. But over and above, what was most intriguing was that how little support they received from people of the other sporting fraternity, barring a handful of people. Everyone sort of zipped up because the person against whom the charges were leveled was and is still a BJP MP, an influential person from UP, and with all those connections. So how do you see this lack of support, even when it comes to sports activism? That is there an element of fear? Is there an element of fear of losing opportunities to generate money? Is there some political threat? How do you see this whole scenario?
Well, Arup, I think it's appalling. It's absolutely shameful and a complete lack of spine by a fraternity that you expect to actually show much more spine. They do excel in sports. It requires tremendous levels of excellence, rigor, patience, perseverance, and then uh, for them not to be able to use that platform to actually speak truth to power. I mean, we in our fraternity, or we talk about speaking truth to power and truth about power, but you know, we don't really have that. Following or that kind of a trust or that kind of a belief and faith by the audience in us to be able to do that effectively all the time. In case of sports, in case of film personalities, they have that adulation. They can make a point, and and when you're safe, I understand that there could be situations where you're not safe, you're too vulnerable, you're too new. But for established sports people not to have opened their mouth during this protracted agitation in Jantar Mantar was, I mean, it's like hanging your own head in shame. That's all. But, connected to this situation in Manipur too. That yes, I think Jackson kind of opened up a new chapter in Indian sports and Indian sport activism. Um, but I must say this, Arup, that knowing the Manipur state very well, it's a very, very close, small, well knit society. uh, whether it's the Meitei or the Kukis, or the Meiteis and Kukis together. I mean, the entire Manipur society. They bond over the food they eat. They bond over the place. It's a small place with a small population, and they aspire for excellence in whatever they do. Um, when they come back home, or even if they're away from home, they are under tremendous pressure from these pressure groups. And this time, I know that what was happening in Manipur, that even if people were reporting, or people were, I mean, these various groups, using these flags and these various which have come up actually, and this is not also a mark of Manipuri separatism, but I think Meitei ethno nationalism more than anything else. But they can put tremendous pressure on you. I mean, I know when I used to report from there, I remember actually members of certain groups would come to the hotel room. They would sit, and I would be speaking to you over the phone, maybe doing a phono, and they would actually, after that, they would sit out there to listen every single word and then scrutinize and then ask me, why did you say this? In your next dispatch, you must clarify this. So they are so the sports people, particularly a 22-year-old, Jackson, may have come under tremendous pressure as well, but also very deliberate. I mean, it's not like he was only under pressure, but I'm saying the both of it, both pressure as well as his own conscience may have forced him to do this.
But Kish, another quick point on which I would want to come in is that we did a story recently on two Manipuri athletes. In fact, one who lost his house and the other who did not, but there was tremendous fear regarding their own families, their safety, and they belonged to, one was a Meitei, one was a Kuki. But the most important point was they could not go home and they were extremely worried and sick. So the administration helped both the families. So that was like a background of a story. But what you're saying is very, very important. I've also been to Moray and Imphal and covered some elections in the past, but not even half as extensively as you have. You're the domain expert. But that threat element is massive. So you feel that could have also influenced Jeakson because his house and some of his family members are still there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without a shred of doubt, I can tell you that even if he believes in it, even if he wants to make use that platform at that moment, that winning moment, to be able to make this point, jeopardizing, as Sandeep says, even his own career in many ways. Uh, I think despite all that, also, there would have been pressure by his family, by his friends, by these pressure groups. And the pressure would have been on the other two footballers as well. And maybe Jackson had the kind of audacity to be able to say, "All right, I'm going to do it." The others did not, but I think there would have been pressure, and the pressure would be, and I know that the pressure is equally on for kooky sports persons to be able to use their platform to be able to say that. I'm not very sure that they're doing it. How many of them would do it? Most of them are not using this, or if they are doing, asking for peace. Jackson also said that he's asking for peace, wearing that, but wearing that indicates, that he has a specific stand, or he's taken a stand. Now, I'm repeating myself. Sorry, that even if he's taken the stand, I know that he would still be under pressure to have taken that stand.
Sandeep, you
You
want to
know,
comment on this? Yeah.
yeah, silence has a problem, largely. If you really look at it, if you just go deeply into it, if one is silent, it makes it so difficult for the others standing in the queue to stand up and have their say. What happens here? Maybe it's not going to open up and you're going to have chaos all over. Every athlete, probably having a point to say out there. But it is important in a field, it is important off the field. It also ensures that this man thinks. And for me, who's a sports lover, who understands or tries to understand talent and sub junior and junior and try and find a thread through all of that, I think you have a very intelligent footballer here. Let's look at the activism part as separate. But I think the silence also gives us a clue that the rest of the athletes out there, irrespective of the events they are in, at least they'll probably think okay, if he could have a say, if he could say something, and I'm not talking political, I'm saying anything else. Now at least they have the courage to probably come out and say, hey, I got a problem. Can I put it forward? Can you guys solve it? You know, that thing is probably done, and I think that is something that we need to look forward to, because silence for me is something that is not right on a sports field, from
I want to
irrespective
come.
of whichever event on sports.
Yeah, I want to come back to both of you with one single point, and which is that I feel that somewhere when we are talking about people having the right to make a political point, of course, everyone does have a right. That is why we have the right to vote, we have the right to change governments, we have the right to elect or defeat politicians, as the case may be. But there is a thing called venue. Now, I'll give you a reference to the context, which is that when the Black Lives Matter campaign was raging, and cricketers were taking a knee, and like I mentioned, Quentin de Kock did not take a knee, and that story went viral. He was dropped from his team. So on the NNIS Sports YouTube page, we had a lot of comments from the whites in South Africa, and their point was that if Black Lives Matter, well, so does White Lives Matter also. And they gave instances, they wrote down instances about how they were being harassed, murdered, killed, deprived, and giving their version, and how they were being hounded in their own country. So he says, hey, if you're talking about BLM, why not White Lives Matter? And the second point was they deeply resented the fact that a sports field was used to make a point. Now, I leave it at that. Kishalai, you go first.
Well, Arup, if a concert arena can be used to make a point, if then why not a sports arena to make a point? I think everyone, every individual, if they are, even if they are representing their nation, has a right to make a point. Whether they're making a point which is harmful to a situation, to a situation which can be made volatile, which will get even more of fuel volatility into it. That is something, it's very difficult to draw that line, right? But as far as I'm concerned, I think if we were less stiff about these things, if we were more open about allowing sports person to be mere individuals and citizens and mortals, and not be occupy the moral high ground of the nation, then perhaps we would have had a better articulation. We would have probably had cricketers also come out and speak without fear of having losing their contracts and their conveniences.
Sandeep?
Well, sports persons are not there just to select the shoe that they are buying, or or to look at or probably this is the brand that I want to be with. You go back to 1936. You from there onwards, the first wave, the second wave, the third wave that started in America in about in activism, in active sports activism. You go to 68 Mexico, John Carlos Tommy Smith. You would remember the black salute. And then there was this sports writer, I think with a Chicago American, if I remember it clearly. He said, just look at these two black athletes. I mean, they are a pair of black skinned stormtroopers. I mean, that was being written in 68 about black athletes, doing all of that. So the point is, the sports arena is a highly emotional arena. And I think if you really look at most of the people who have come out and become part of this whole activism, they are all either gold medal winners, part of winning teams, world champions. I think they use this in a way that probably trying to forward a cause, whether they of course believe in it. Whether we believe in it or not is different. But I think sports arena will be used, and constantly will in the coming years and for decades down the line, it will always be this hot place where a sports person, irrespective of who he is or who she is, will always use this to forward a cause. I think that is something that's never going to change in sport.
Okay, we leave it at that because we are out of time. And before we close, I just want to do a quick end wrap for our viewers, and some of the points that both of you made were very, very interesting. For example, the point of threat coming in from Manipur, and that is something that not too many people would have thought of. Kishore made that point that some of these players, even journalists, are under constant threat. They are, let's say, they are under huge pressure. Then also that sports persons have a right to make a point, and there should not be any fence sitting. Again, Kish talking about that sports persons should be less stiff, and Sandeep very aptly saying that the sports arena has been used and will be used to make political comments, and nothing can really be done to stop that, and they do have a right. Many, many thanks to you, Kishale and Sandeep, and great to see you, Kish,
Thank you.
and hope to see you soon again. Thank you.
Thanks, Amru.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.